Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers and sisters. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalam ala rasulillah, amma ba'd. Today I'd like to remind myself and you about the importance of not being choosy in following Islam. Allah said in the Holy Quran, O you who have believed, enter into Islam fully, completely, and do not follow the footsteps of Satan. Indeed, he is to you a clear enemy. Sheikh Sa'di rahimahullah said in the tafsir of this ayah, this is an order from Allah the Most High to the believers to enter into submission Islam completely, i.e. to accept all of the aspects of his deen, his religion, and not to reject any of them, and not to be of those who took their desires as gods, fulfilling religious commandments when their desire agrees with them, and if not, not following them. But rather, what is obligatory is that our desires follow the religion, fulfilling whatever one can from pious deeds, and whatever one cannot do, to have the intention to do it when it becomes possible, so gets rewarded for his good intentions. And since to enter into Islam completely is not possible to accomplish or even to imagine except by avoiding the paths of Satan, Allah said, and do not follow the footsteps of Satan, meaning by disobeying Allah. Indeed, he is unto you a clear enemy. And a clear enemy does not command except to do evil and abomination and whatever brings harm to you. End of quote. Secondly, Allah also said, addressing the followers of Judaism, so do you believe in part of the scripture and disbelieve in part? And then, what is the recompense for those who do that among you except disgrace in worldly life? And on the day of resurrection, they will be sent back to the severest of punishments. And Allah is not unaware of what you do. Sheikh Sa'di rahimahullah said in his tafsir about this ayah, the actions mentioned in this ayah are those of people who were present during the time of revelation in the city of Medina, where the tribes of Aus and Khazraj resided. And they are called the Ansar, helpers of Islam and the Prophet ﷺ. But at the time, they were idolaters before the prophethood of Muhammad ﷺ. They often would engage in battles, as was the practice of the times of ignorance before Islam. Then 3 Jewish tribes moved to Medina, Banu Qurayza, Banu Nadir, and Banu Qaynuqa'. Each one of these tribes forged an alliance with different tribes in Medina. After that, if they engaged in any battles, a Jew would fight on the side of his local allies against a fellow Jew who was fighting on the side of his own allies. So a Jew sometimes would kill a fellow Jew, or he would drive him out of his home if the fighting involved evictions and looting. Then, when the wars ended, the resulting prisoners of war would be ransomed or exchanged. And all of the 3 actions were made obligatory upon them: not to spill each other's blood, not to evict one another from the homes, and if they were to find prisoners from themselves, they were obliged to ransom them. So they only fulfilled the last obligation and abandoned the first 2. So Allah rebuked them for this and said, do you then believe in part of the scripture, and that is ransoming the prisoners, and disbelieve in another part, and that is killings and evictions? And in this there is the strongest proof that Iman, belief, requires one to do what he's been commanded and leave what he's been forbidden. And commandments are from Iman. Then Allah said, then what is the recompense of the one who does that among you except disgrace in worldly life? Which did happen. Allah disgraced them by allowing His Messenger ﷺ to overpower them. Some of them got killed, some were taken prisoner, while others were exiled. And on the day of resurrection they will be sent back to the severest of punishments, meaning the greatest. And Allah is not unaware of what you do. Then Allah informed us of the reason which made them disbelieve in part of the scripture and believe in another part of it. Those are the ones who exchanged, meaning bought, the life of this world for the hereafter. They thought that if they were not to help their allies, they would be disgraced. So they chose the fire of hell over worldly disgrace. So their torment will not be lightened. Rather, it will stay severe at all times. And they will not taste any respite at any time. And Allah said, nor will they be helped. No one will be able to avert their punishment. End of quote. So some examples of being choosy in following Islam. For example, to earn one's living in an illegal or dishonest way. To say that to deceive non-Muslims is allowed, and to act upon this false principle. Another example is to declare non-desirable Muslims to be out of Islam, or to call them various unpleasant names. To freely speak to or message members of the opposite sex while claiming a desire to get married. Another one is to remove a non-desirable wali, guardian, of a lady one intends to marry, even though it's a very important condition of marriage, claiming that he is not praying or that he drinks alcohol, meaning, and other things, and to appoint another person as a wali, normally one's friend. Of course, to remove a father as a wali is a very serious offense, a very serious deed in Islam, and is done only in extremely rare circumstances. In extremely rare cases. The majority of scholars of Islam allow a fasiq, a sinful Muslim, to be a wali if he is trying to marry his daughter to a pious man. Other examples include of following Islam according to one's desire, or being choosy, to listen to music, or to dance, or to engage in racism or nationalism, praising one's race or nation and belittling others. Many women pray but do not wear the correct hijab, the veil. If they happen to wear a veil, many of them wear bright colors or tight clothes, which is forbidden. And their fathers, brothers and husbands, unfortunately, are quiet. Endless gossiping, claiming that it's all true. To fight the religion of Allah, Islam, and persecute Muslims under the pretext that it's my job, I can't do anything, I have to earn a living, and so on. To marry a few wives, but not to be fair between them. For the wife not to obey the husband, claiming that he is talking nonsense, and to constantly quarrel with him and talk back to him in a disrespectful manner, while living in his house and eating his food. Many women not accepting polygamy, which is a big part of Islam, an important part of Islam. For children to mistreat their parents when they stop liking them, normally when they get old, or not to look after them properly, or even not to look after them at all. For parents not to consider the wishes and opinions of their children, even when they are grown up, and to constantly annoy and harass them. To always attend dinner or party invitations, and to eat like an elephant, but at the same time not to invite anyone to eat with him or to be generous. Of course, this does not apply to times when we have pandemics, epidemics, and quarantines. We have to socially be distant or self-isolate. This applies to other times, general times. To demand one's rights, but not to fulfill one's obligations. To be deluded by oneself and this world, that knowing that neither is worth it. This is what I could remember. May Allah help us not to be choosy, but submit ourselves to the will of Allah, knowing that we will return to Him and will be asked about everything we did and said here. And our life here, dear brothers and sisters, is very short, so let us make the most of it. Jazakumullahu khairah.